And welcome to the Critical Breakdown, the podcast where we start at the bottom of Rotten Tomatoes and work our way to 100% fresh. I'm Scott.
And I'm Max, and
we made it.
Scott, we have made it to 100% fresh.
Got to change that intro.
Knock, knock, knocking on Hundo's door.
Who's there?
It's us, the podcast boys.
Yeah. And we'll find out who's answering that door today.
Yeah, we shall.
Yeah. So we did a little something different.
Yeah, we had a... Never mind. We did something a little different.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say we had a three-way, and there's a lot of weird implications with that. So.
Yeah. And I also don't get it. But we did do a little something different.
Yeah.
We brought back all of our favorite guests. Some of our favorite guests couldn't be brought back, but
they're dead.
We reached out to the honorary podcast boys of yesteryear, and we had everyone give us a little vote. We pitched them the 100% movies. It seemed discussion worthy, and we said, hey, record us a little something. Well, let's hear what you think. Because we were originally going to do like we did with the rest of the 90s, a Max pick, a Scott pick, a fan vote. Mm-hmm. But that didn't feel, like enough of an exclamation point at the end, you know? You want that 100% to be kind of like a boom, that's our 100%er. Not we have three best movies.
Well, what played well to my interest here when you pitched this idea was the whole concept with Rotten Tomatoes is we talked about it last week, but you have this like curated list of critics who give their feedback and thought. So we're dipping into our curated fountain,
our curated list of break clowns.
Yeah, and we're gonna see what the top critics pick.
Yeah, our top critics. And let me tell you, Max and everyone else, I think this is a real testament to our diversity.
It is,
because our honorary podcast boys picked a bunch of movies for us. Before we get to that, I just want to call out one special movie that nobody voted for, but just because it came out this year and it's at 100%. It's called Leave No Trace. It's a little indie movie. Ben Foster. I forget the director off the top of my head. This is just kind of a riff. But the fact that it's 100% in today's day and age is pretty cool because it has 230 reviews, whereas, Citizen Kane has 35 and, some of these older movies just didn't have the same number of critics. So I just thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I know off the top of my head, before that, one of the more recent ones also was Paddington 2.
Paddington 2!
But we don't really do sequels, but we can.
That was Walter and Mickey and Pete's vote was for Paddington 2, but we had to tell them we haven't seen Paddington 1. And
yeah. Well, I have.
Mickey has, yeah.
It's amazing, so.
Yeah, I'd be down to watch it, but... You know what? Let's start this over. See you next week. Sequels are in.
Paddington 2.
Well, you know what?
Sequels have been in, so.
I didn't send our honorary break clowns any sequels as choices.
That's fair.
Because I would have, because Toy Story 2 is one of my favorites. More so than Toy Story 1. But anyways, enough burying the lead. Whose voice we got first, Max?
Let's see.
Pick randomly.
That was me randomly picking.
Yeah, got it. I saw it.
First up.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Eric Rivera. I was on the Watchmen episode, and I am Max's brother. There are a lot of good options on this list. I'm a big fan of Before Sunrise, and Toy Story, Rear Window. I feel like I've forgotten the original Terminator. I've seen the second one so many times. Yeah, Gold Rush, that's an awesome one. Modern Times, that's also great. But my choice would have to be, unsurprisingly, Citizen Kane. As a film student, I watched it a bunch of times, and I have seen it many times since then. And it's always an interesting watch. Always gets the job done, and a lot of fun stuff to talk about with it. So my vote is for Citizen Kane.
Wow, what a bombshell to start.
Yeah, just hitting out those.
That's cool because I just mentioned it.
Film class.
Yeah.
Classics.
Citizen Kane has to be a film that every film class ever. It's part of the curriculum. Like every basic film class. Like I took one film class in college and we watched Citizen Kane.
Yeah, I mean it's And there's reasons why. It's you don't get to 100%.
Critics agree.
Yeah, without
making
being,
a few enemies.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one thing that this film did is it kind of created that widely used, but usually you can make an effective story with it, where it's a story trope of beginning with the character's death, then going back and seeing their life story, and that's kind of I would say this is probably the most prominent film that created that,
started it.
Yeah, that like format.
Yeah.
So
Now you do see it fairly.
Yeah.
You get a lot of that teaser at the start of like the end of the movie. Not always a character death, but something that happened.
Yeah, like the end of their story opens the story. Yeah.
Yeah, I know I don't know if Citizen Kane per se invented the idea of like a MacGuffin, but it has probably one of the most well-known Rosebud as the MacGuffin.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty cool. This was Charles Schulz, Peanuts creator. Charles Schulz, favorite movie.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So my first exposure to this movie was actually through a little show called Tiny Toons.
Oh.
Which makes me laugh because I obviously watched this with my brother.
And a big rival to the Peanuts.
I guess. No, but they had an episode named Citizen Max.
Oh.
Because they had a rich character in town named Montana Max.
Okay. He was the one who named all the states, right?
I don't know what his deal was. I don't remember. I just remember he was a jerk, but
he sounded like a jerk when you said his name.
Yeah, he was at his house destroying all of his toys and possessions, and he looked into the mirror and he yells out "Acme" to the whole world, and then everyone across their town, Acme Acres, is trying to figure out why he yelled at Acme while destroying all of his stuff. Yeah. And the whole episode is structured like Citizen Kane. Yeah. So when I was older and I was watching Citizen Kane for the first time, I was like,
it's an appreciation.
Okay.
Well, what's really interesting about that is I was just watching a documentary about Tiny Toons. Mm-hmm. When we said Acme, it was a predecessor to what we say today, at me, when you say a controversial opinion. So really, when he said Acme, it was supposed to be at me, like he destroyed his house. If you got a problem with it, Acme Acres, at me. That's what he did.
I appreciate your gusto there, but they did. Okay. They had a stinger to their joke at the end there in the episode, which was
It is a good joke, in fairness. Not mine, like that. The Acme. You could compliment my joke if you wanted, but
I said I appreciate your gusto. He actually had acne. He was going through puberty, so he was screaming out acne, and that's why he was destroying everything.
Okay.
So, yeah, they had a little built-in joke there.
Well, before we recorded this, I looked up because my memory of Citizen Kane is it being like a 3 to 4 hour epic, and it's less than 2 hours, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's I do like revisiting this film from time to time.
I'm due.
There's a lot of good visual, just like imagery that sticks with me.
Yeah.
I remember a lot of the wintry scenes, mostly because the callback at the end there with the sled and all that
Spoiler
stuff.
alert.
So yeah.
There's also a really cool scene where like I remember you can see like just the way they do some of the framing and stuff. It's very modern. You can see things out windows in the background that comments on what the actors in the foreground are saying, and it's just kind of cool.
I remember a lot of cool shots with the estate in the background too, like them way up at the gate or something. And there's So it's definitely an interesting film to look at.
Yeah. And Orson Welles was kind of a controversial figure in Hollywood, wasn't he? Because I was reading that they... I
know he has an interesting bio.
Well, I was reading that they tried to get the whole film thrown out because saying it was like communist propaganda because he had kind of pissed some people off in the making of it. And Netflix released that movie this year. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it was like a lost Orson Welles film, or the rights had shifted around, no one released it, and they kind of remastered it and came out with it. Well, hey, Eric, thanks for the vote. It's one of the... Let's see what else we got. You could do it.
Thanks, Eric, for casting your vote there. We'll see how... Is that what you meant by you can do it?
No, I just meant you're going to edit it.
Oh. I thought you wanted me to do it.
Was mine bad?
Kinda. You're like, I got this. Thanks. What's next? I'm just kidding, man. I'm just kidding.
We can't let this tie tear us apart.
All right.
Hey, Max and Scott. It's three-time guest and Scott's sister, Sarah, here to weigh in on what movie I think you guys should watch for 100%. My vote is on Toy Story. I think you should watch Toy Story because I don't think you've watched an animated film yet as part of reviewing movies for the podcast. And I think Toy Story was one of the first computer-generated animation films that did really well. I also think Toy Story is a really important movie because it really defined a genre of quote-unquote kids movies that really could appeal universally to adults and all audiences. And I really think it's a movie that has stood the test of time and is important to so many people. So I'd really be interested to hear what you guys have to say about it.
Thanks, Sarah. A vote for Toy Story.
An American classic.
It is. I mean, It's like a modern animation classic.
I mean, it put Pixar on the map, that's for sure. Like,
it made the map.
Yeah, exactly.
It is the map.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody our age loves Toy Story, right? Because for my personal experience, I am Andy's age. Like when Toy Story 3 came out and he was going to college was the year I went to college.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
So it's very, very tied that way. But I just remember going to see Toy Story as a kid. It's like one of the movie trips I remember.
Yeah. I remember seeing...
You're older than me.
Yeah, I'm a little bit older than you, so I remember seeing it and really liking it and being like, well, at least it's a kids movie I can still watch, because I was like 10 or 11 when it came out. And
so that's like that almost too cool for kids movies
So
age.
I was edging out into more mature animation, basically. So that's when I started looking into things like, Japanese films and all that. And then
Akira.
Finding more adult films in general. But
hentai.
But that's when I had my tentacle phase. But I mean, I do remember thinking like it was good, and anytime it get put on in school, it's like, that's cool, we can watch that.
You guys would watch it at school, Toy Story?
Well, I mean, they would just put on on free days. They'd put on like, kids movies and stuff.
For us, it was always Remember the Titans.
That's usually in middle school what they would go to.
They went from Toy Story to Remember the Titans.
Toy Story came out like right when I was finishing up elementary school. So
Toy Story is, we mentioned that put Pixar on the map, but there's so much talent involved.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird to say in front and behind the camera, because that's usually when you refer to like the cast and then the crew. But like John Lasseter was directly involved in that, and he's kind of like the godfather of Pixar in a way. And this is even when Steve Jobs was still involved in Pixar.
Yeah, when Apple had a good chunk there.
And I don't know if they still did when Toy Story came out, but at least during the production of Toy Story, Steve Jobs still...
Yeah.
Did he own Pixar, or was he just running it? I don't remember.
I think he owned it at a certain point, and then they sold it.
Yeah.
And then Disney got it later, or Disney worked with them and then bought them. So it was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well,
but I know Toy Story was in the making for like way over a decade, I would say. Like in the 80s, they were working on it with really early computer technology.
Yeah.
So
and there was still some computer technology that wasn't fully there when this came out. Like they couldn't really render hair.
Yeah.
So that's why like Sid and Andy and everyone have really short hair.
Yeah.
And explosions they couldn't really do, so they would always cut away from, like when Combat Carl gets blown up by Sid, they would cut away, and so you'd see the aftermath, but they couldn't really render those kinds of effects. So I imagine, like when we watched Beauty and the Beast, the animation film we already did review, we talked about how they kind of did do some computer animation blending in there. So I bet this was probably in the works around the same time with those limited effects, and that's kind of cool.
What, this came out in 95?
I want to say later. I don't have it written down, but
I think it's 95. Yeah, 1995.
Okay. I want to say later, but I'm wrong.
This came out in 1995, so that would be 4 years after Beauty and the Beast, I believe.
If that, right?
I want to say that one's either 91 or 92.
I'm not good with dates, it turns out.
Yeah, 4 years after.
Yeah. I'm just going to let you handle dates from here on.
That's usually what I did in the trivia team back in the day. I was one of the movie dates people.
There
you
go.
You
should have told me that before the pod. Asshole. Toy Story is the only of the trilogy to have a human antagonist.
Oh, yeah.
Because Toy Story 2 has Stinky Pete the Prospector. Toy Story 3 has Lots of Huggin' Bear.
But there's also there's some human antagonism.
Yeah, there's like
they kind of create the environment. So where in Man versus Nature, you have us fighting plants. This is like toy versus human environment.
Yeah, because Toy Story 2 has the collector who's I forget it was Al, right, from Al's Toy Barn.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was. Well, Toy Story 2 is my favorite.
I've seen 2 once. So
you should see 2 twice. It's good. good. It's really
I think I've
good.
only seen the third one once also.
Yeah, I've seen the third one a couple times.
The third one's my favorite, though. So
mine's 2. I'm a 2-1-3 boy.
yeah, that's fair, man. That's fair.
Everybody's got an order, though. And I actually have it tattooed here on my lip. 2-1-3.
Yeah, he does.
But anyways, yeah, in 2, it's Al, the owner of Al's Toy Barn, finds Woody, who's a collectible, and then that really old guy comes over, and they have like the montage of him sewing Woody's arm back up and stuff like that. But then Stinky Pete, the prospector, wants to stay a collector's item instead of a toy because he'll live forever. You know, that's what he says. And then there's Woody's Roundup, the TV show.
God, I don't remember
He's the
most of
rootinest, tootinest cowboy in the wild, wild west.
I remember Jesse.
Yeah, Jesse was also one of the collectors. And Bullseye.
Is that the horse?
Okay, man.
It's been, what was that one, 97?
I'm not going to guess. I think it was 08.
99.
99. Yeah.
I was closer.
Yeah.
It's been since 99 since I've seen that one. So
Well, you should watch it, please.
I probably should rewatch it.
Here's a fun fact.
Yeah.
If you bought a Woody toy after seeing Toy Story and you pulled his string, you'd hear a Woody line, but it wouldn't have been said by Tom Hanks. It would have been said by Tom Hanks' brother, Jim Hanks, who voiced the Woody action figures.
That's interesting.
And he voiced Woody in many video games and stuff afterward.
Like the adaptations
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Apparently, I didn't know who Jim Hanks was, but apparently he's made a whole career of hanging out with his brother because he was used as a body double often in Forrest Gump.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
The Hanks family is weird, man.
Well, I got one more weird thing about that.
Okay.
Jim Hanks also voiced Jeffrey the Giraffe from the Toys R Us commercials. Rest in peace.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, that adds to what I was saying.
Yeah.
They're weird because
Yeah.
you have Tom Hanks, everyone loves Tom Hanks.
So weird.
He plays himself, kinda, half the time.
Yeah, he's kind of reached that.
But he's
like nice
good
dad.
still. Yeah, like exactly, like approachable, nice guy. And you have Jim Hanks doing his sloppy seconds over here.
Uncle Jim.
And then you have Colin Hanks, who's just moved into directing, I believe.
What has he directed?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I think he's moved into directing.
The last thing I remember him being in and being very good was Fargo. The show.
He was good in Fargo. And then let's see. I thought he was moving into directing.
I believe it.
Let's see. Most recently, he did a short, The Amazing Adventures of Wally and the Worm.
Okay.
Which looks like an animated short, maybe. About the Chicago Bulls coach Phil Jackson, maybe? I don't know. About Wally Blaze or something. I don't know.
All right.
I don't really know.
That is weird, though.
Yeah,
so you're right.
But even weirder than that is the fact that Tom Hanks has a son who is a rapper.
Oh, yeah. What was his name again?
Chet Hayes.
Chet? What's it? Is he a Chet Hanks?
Chet Hayes is his rap name. I don't know.
What's his Hanks name? What's
see.
his Tom given name?
His Chet Hanks. Yeah, it's Chet Hanks.
When you name your son Chet, you're setting him up for some weird stuff, right?
Yeah. And his mom's the actress Rita Wilson, just for the record. So you might know
from
Mamma Mia.
Mamma Mia.
Yeah. So that's a weird family, man. That's all I was getting at.
But Toy Story is a good film.
Yeah, and one more just weird thing with Toy Story, Infinity and Beyond has become like very much a catchphrase from that. Like
to
people
infinity
say it. Yeah.
and beyond.
And I think it's in a Beyonce lyric at some point, which is
okay.
applicable
That's
to
how you know
Sarah.
it made it.
But then also apparently a father and son who got lost at sea kept using that as their chant to swim through the Atlantic to shore, and they managed to get to safety, I guess, by focusing on the famous words of Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah. He's a space ranger.
Yeah, so he's a hero.
Very cool. Well, maybe it'll win.
Maybe.
And that wraps up the familial portion of the voting. What do we got next, Max? How's that?
Next, we have...
My vote for the 100% movie is Seven Samurai, for its impact on Westerns to even Star Wars, the idea of assembling a team of strangers to accomplish a goal, and even the use of the weather, most notably the rain and the climactic battle scene. I think this is a very underrated but extremely influential and interesting movie and would be worthy of discussion.
Thanks, John. That was John Darling from our Takers episode. That's a throwback.
That's a good episode.
Yeah. And you know what? John's a good guy.
You hear that, John?
And I think you agree because he voted for Seven Samurai, which if we had stayed the path, Seven Samurai was your pick for the 100%.
You could argue this has 2 votes then.
Oh.
You could. But we're not going to bring it up. Because Seven Samurai is a good movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I bought the Criterion Collection a long time ago in anticipation, and then it was my idea to change what we do. So even if we don't get there, we'll have to watch it.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, Akira Kurosawa, man. I've been just dying to get into this one.
Yeah.
But you know, he's if anything, his legacy is almost what everyone knows because his style of filmmaking has definitely influenced almost like every modern director.
Yeah, this Seven Samurai is often credited as the first true action film.
Yeah. And they went on to remake it in America as The Magnificent Seven.
And then they remade that.
In
America as The Magnificent Seven.
And it also had a couple other remakes just for you here. There's a anime series, I believe, called Samurai 7, which is based off that. You have your Magnificent Sevens, like we said. Yeah. You have an 80s sci-fi movie, I want to say, called Battle Beyond the Stars that's like very heavily based on this. And here's a little tie-in for you. A lot of critics pointed out A Bug's Life is basically the same plot.
I like A Bug's Life a lot.
I'm fine with The Bug's Life.
The plot being like gathering a group to take on
the invading trouble, basically.
Much like the Avengers.
Yeah, I mean you can look at it as it is an archetypal story.
Endgame.
But but no, the big thing here is you have this group coming together to save the town, basically. Sure. And that has been a trope since then. So you definitely see its influence there. But even going further, Kurosawa's work has influenced many things. I think The Hidden Fortress, they say Star Wars is directly basically the plot of The Hidden Fortress.
That's another film of Kurosawa's?
Yes. And then Rashomon is a very interesting one.
I've heard of Rashomon.
Where it's basically... You could see this one, actually. You could see a lot of Kurosawa in The Last Jedi, which is kind of neat. But how they have... In The Last Jedi, how they have, the different versions of stories playing. Yeah. That's like the entire film, Rashomon, is different people's accounts of a crime, basically.
Yeah.
So it's, you see, like I said, Kurosawa's work just influences everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and this one's a beast, so this one's almost 4 hours.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was really looking forward to was us having to take like 4 days to watch this one. So.
Yeah. This would have been a classic 2-parter, which I think the only movie that we split into 2 parts to watch was Kingdom of Heaven.
Yeah.
And we did watch the extended edition for that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which would have been longer, but everything else we did in one sitting, did we not?
I think
maybe Bahubali we might have split. No, there's no way.
Those, yeah, because those feel like
they're so
45
good.
minutes. They fly by, but there's at least one more where we had to stop, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I can't remember either, but I do distinctly remember Kingdom of Heaven.
Yeah, that one for sure. Yeah. That's a longie. Those epics, man.
Yeah, man.
No,
this would be an epic pick.
I definitely would watch this movie with anybody.
Oh,
just strangers could come off the street and be like, "Let's watch Seven Samurai,"
including me.
Yeah, dude, you're not a stranger though.
Yeah,
I'm
a comedian. All right,
you're a podcast.
Moving
boy.
on,
you're a podcast boy.
What do we got next? Next vote.
Hello, Critical Breakdown. This is Julia Vickerman, and the 100% film that I'm recommending you watch is the 1940 animated film Pinocchio. It is revered as a technical achievement in animation and is also absolutely horrifying. The scene where the boys go to Pleasure Island and subsequently turn into donkeys ruined my life as a child, and it made me extremely scared of smoking and wary of playing pool. I believe it's some kind of metaphor for pleasure being bad and that hard work makes you a more moral person. Strange that Disney would make a film portraying the evils of amusement parks, but there you go. Anyway, it's a very odd movie, and I do not believe it's one of the greatest animated films of all time, but I do believe it deserves to be seen because it is so strange and dark. Enjoy.
Thanks, Julia. Straight out of ladies' night and right into the ballot box.
Yeah, that's Pinocchio's a weird one, man. Have you seen it?
That's one of those movies that I'm sure I have seen, but I was so young that I don't remember anything.
I used to watch it a lot. My grandfather had a VHS bootleg of this and Dumbo back to back.
Ooh, double header.
Both of them freaked me the hell out.
Dumbo's kind of a tough movie to watch for a kid, isn't it?
There's
a lot of body shaming.
I don't know, man. I've
never seen Dumbo.
Oh, okay,
so
but
I'm making assumptions based on the Tim Burton version's trailer.
It had freaky imagery too.
Yeah.
But I do think Pinocchio is definitely like one of the freakiest ones.
Maybe you don't like larger than normal body parts, big ears, big nose.
I'm cool with big butts, so I can't lie.
You never have.
But no, I remember just weird stuff that I feel like they go into a whale or a fish in Pinocchio.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And they build a fire to like get out. I just remember a lot of the weird contrasty
Jiminy Cricket
imagery. I remember what she's talking about. Like all that stuff is freaky. It's great in that sense where it's visually intriguing.
Yeah. I was surprised to hear Julia tell us that it was from 1940. I mean, the animation, I've seen clips and things and it holds up fairly well. It's definitely all hand drawn, but
it's interesting because there's the really old Disney movies, which are kind of the first classics we think of when you think of like the really classic
Snow Whites.
Disneys. Yeah. And then you have your Renaissance period where it's the more modern stuff.
Yeah.
And you have weird stuff in between, but some of those are big and some aren't.
Yeah.
But this original
they keep those ones in the vault.
Probably, man. These old school ones though, they're interesting. They're different. Yeah. Sometimes they're probably racist too, but that was cinema back then, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's still worthy of discussion if it ever is. Yeah. What I thought was great was this is 100%.
Yeah.
And one of our choices for 0% was Pinocchio.
Yeah.
The 2002 Roberto
it was
Benigni
his follow-up
film.
to Life is Beautiful.
Yeah. And when I was talking to Julia, I was telling her I remember when I first saw Life is Beautiful, I was like blown away by that movie.
It's great.
We had rented it from Blockbuster. Yeah. I think I watched it 3 times in one weekend, and I think I cried every single time, just like
I wept tears right at the end of that
and
movie.
I literally just kept watching it because I was like, this is a beautiful film.
It's captivating.
And so I was like, I cannot wait to see what Roberto Benigni does next. Yeah. And then when I finally saw the trailer for Pinocchio in theaters, I was like,
action.
I will never trust another director again.
It was a monstrosity. We watched that trailer a couple times in our consideration for, the bookend, the other bookend, the 0%er.
Yeah. And
we were lucky to pick an icon like Mac and me.
It just makes me think like the trailer gives me cringe. And I remember it gave me cringe when I first saw it before.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he just decided that was a good idea.
With Life is Beautiful, he was director, writer, and star.
Yeah.
And it was such a hit, I imagine they were like, hey, what do you want to do? You can do whatever you want. And then he must have picked Pinocchio.
Yeah.
And he must have...
He had clout.
It must be his vision.
Yeah.
And that's tough to hear.
Yeah, it is. I think the only thing scarier than the weird scenes in this movie would be Roberto Benigni's Pinocchio.
His rendition of those weird scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're an adult man and you cast yourself as a puppet boy... That's tough.
Your movie's either going to be 0% or 100%.
Yeah.
There's no in between.
Even Prairie Miller couldn't save that one.
Yeah.
But, so this Pinocchio, though, 100%. So, the framework's there for a good movie.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it always ranks high on these, like, important films, important animations, all those lists. It still has impact to it. So it's interesting to see this far out.
Plus, the classic Disney When You Wish Upon a Star, that's from Pinocchio.
That's true.
Oh.
What did we hear that in recently?
Maybe some commercials after the Super Bowl for Who's Going to Disney World?
No. I was thinking the music of it.
Yeah. Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense than my first answer.
It made enough sense.
It made something. Why make sense when you can make dollars?
Well, you could also make 100% movie.
We should if we could.
Yeah.
What do we got next?
All right. what we got next is...
But it came down to 2 classics. We had a lot of great nominees, as we've already heard, but 2 films rallied the most support.
Hey, Scott and Max, this is Albert. First of all, congratulations on getting to 100. It's been a long time coming, so good for you guys. The film that I would suggest that you guys review for number 100 is The Maltese Falcon. I feel like it's something along the lines of which you haven't reviewed before, unlike Mary Poppins or Toy Story. And I think you're really going to like it. It really started the genre for film noir. And maybe you'll like it so much you'll review more. You'll do like a whole film noir series. Could be the next podcast that you guys do. Maybe Max had changed his handle to Max Rivera Film Noir. Could happen. I don't know. Well, that's the one I'm going to pick. So I hope you guys watch it and enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Miles from the More You Nerd podcast. First of all, I wanted to congratulate you guys for getting this milestone. Having listened to you guys from 0% and both talking to you and continuing to be a fan of your show, it has been such a fun ride. You guys gave me a really cool list of films to kind of look over as to what I thought you should pick for your 100% film. And it came down to 2. One was Modern Times, which I ended up not picking. It was slightly edged out by The Maltese Falcon, mostly because my love for noir and Humphrey Bogart kind of supersedes everything. And this isn't even my favorite Bogart film. That's the Big Sleep. But as one of the first great noir films, I think it's an important film to look at, and a film that I think is well preserved by its time, in that when you watch a noir story, you always feel like you could have seen it in black and white. And so looking at something, especially something as old as this film, it came out in 1941, you can always, look at things with a modern lens, what holds up, what doesn't, what isn't kosher, what isn't. But at the end of the day, they're always really interesting stories if you like that melodramatic detective story, which I do. And it's an interesting film to watch now because so many films and books and TV shows and cartoons have taken these things and run them to death. So it's really fun to look at something like this when it was fresh and new. And I've always loved that, because part of the ongoing film conversation is modern people looking at some of these older films and questioning whether or not it's a classic. Like, does Casablanca deserve to be on so many number ones? And I mean, I personally don't think so, but it's always an interesting conversation to have as we move forward in time and as other great films come out. So that's my pick. I hope you guys choose it. If not, no hard feelings, but let me know what you think of the film either way.
Hey, this is Jody, and Walter, the podcast dog. I officially get a say in his vote for what you should watch for your 100% fresh. And when reading the descriptions of the movies, I'll be honest, first I was drawn to Toy Story just because I really love that film. But when reading the description for All About Eve, it was Showgirls. I know that All About Eve came out before Showgirls by several decades, but I still haven't really gotten over the fact that you didn't pick Showgirls at, what was that, 23%, 37%? It was definitely below 40. And I'd like to see that story told in a different way and then go back and watch Showgirls for a direct comparison. And since I'll probably be watching this movie with you, as I have with 95% of them, this is what I want to watch, so you should watch it too.
Critical Breakdown. Congratulations on getting to 100% on the tomato meter. This is Kara, longtime listener, many-time guest. I think for your 100% movie, you should throw it back to something old school and either do Maltese Falcon, because everyone loves Bogey, or go with All About Eve, which has one of my favorite acting ensembles ever in it. But I might be in the minority with this, so go with whatever, because what do I know?
What do you know, Kara?
So, in case it wasn't super clear, but we did clarify with Kara afterwards that her vote is for All About Eve, and that leaves us, deadlocked.
Yeah, but it's at the same time she did throw it in for Maltese Falcon.
Yeah, there was a hanging Chad.
So I don't know. What do we do, Scott?
Well, I mean, we could talk about these ones. They're both deserving choices.
Yeah.
You know, the Maltese Falcon, as Albert and Miles so eloquently put it, is a classic that a genre has been built out of. Like, crime film was really built out of the Maltese Falcon, not even just noir per se. And it's not like they were the first to try it. Other films tried this and failed. This was the third rendition of the Maltese Falcon. In 1931, a version came out called The Maltese Falcon. And in 1936, a version came out called Satan Met a Lady. And it starred Bette Davis.
Huh.
Wait, go ahead.
I was going to say, who is the star of All About Eve?
Yeah. I'll just put that together.
Yeah. You know, she has Bette Davis eyes. Don't worry about it.
Okay. And then All About Eve, I know, was... it was in the news... This isn't even that recent anymore, fairly recently, because La La Land earned 14 Oscar nominations, tying the record that was held by All About Eve and Titanic for most Oscar nominations for a single film. And I'm realizing now that was 2 years ago. Almost literally 2 years ago.
I am very interested in All About Eve because I have not actually seen it. And the description sounds neat. I was reading a little review that was kind of older talking about... how it speaks a lot to sexuality and hetero and homosexuality.
You know I'm in.
Yeah. And it just sounds very intriguing.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't get to 14 Oscar nominations on accident.
It's true.
You know, especially, I mean, it was 1950 when All About Eve came out, so different landscape, different awards. Like, literally, the awards weren't the same as they are today, but... You still have to be a pretty darn good movie to get there.
I mean, the Writers Guild of America has ranked this All About Eve as the 5th best screenplay ever written.
That's pretty good.
It is pretty good.
What's number 4 through 1?
I don't know because I didn't look it up. But it's the Maltese Falcon, all the other versions of it.
Yeah. Satan Met a Lady.
Yeah. No, what made me happy about Albert's pick is we recently watched the film L.A. Confidential.
Yes, we did.
And when we were watching
99%.
Yes, and when we were watching it, I said I referenced Albert as well as one of our other friends and said, I bet both of these people probably wish their everyday life was like this film, but in different ways.
Yeah.
And so it made me happy to see that Albert kept that up.
Yes, you were right. Real quick pause. I was looking to see if Perry Miller had reviewed either of these movies, and I can't find anything. I'm trying to think of a good tiebreaker. And
let's see what Chet Hayes has to say.
Well, Ebbs liked this one. Maybe I can, because we do have to think of a way to divide this still.
Who had more reviews?
That half the searches I do on Rotten Tomatoes just don't work.
Casablanca was the top screenplay. Godfather, Chinatown, Citizen Kane, then All About Eve.
Oh.
Annie Hall, Sunset Boulevard, Network, Some Like It Hot, and then The Godfather 2.
Some Like It Hot. Sunset Boulevard, you said?
Yeah.
I've never seen Sunset Boulevard.
Me either.
Broken Dreams. Perry Miller's page on Rotten Tomatoes is literally broken.
Yeah. It's probably for the best.
Yeah. We want to go number of reviews, audience score. We've never considered those things before, though.
A good gut feeling.
We could fucking call Taylor right now and make him pick.
Hello?
Taylor.
Hey.
Hey, is this Taylor?
Taylor Phillips?
Hey, Taylor Phillips. This is Scott and Max from The Critical Breakdown.
Hey, Taylor.
Hi, guys.
Hey, we got a question for you.
Yeah?
We ran our little election for a movie, and we ended up with a tie between two films, neither of which you voted for. But we're going to use you to help us decide.
I get to be the swing vote for
You're,
concert?
yeah, man. From the plurality of the votes that we got,
Yep.
we had we have a tie basically between The Maltese Falcon and All About Eve.
Huh.
So we're gonna let you cast the tie-breaking vote.
All right, I'm going to go with my instinct on this one. We're going to go for the Maltese Falcon.
All right.
There you have it, folks.
There you have it. Thank you, Taylor.
Welcome, guys.
I mean, it doesn't get more raw than that.
Yeah. I hope the mic picked that up.
We'll have to check.
That's how raw it is.
But that's Taylor Phillips. You've heard his voice a few times, and you heard it again.
Yeah.
We had to call in the cavalry.
Call him in.
I think this is a good pick. Maltese Falcon's a great movie.
Yeah. You know what? I'm probably still going to watch All About Eve.
Yeah, I will too.
We can maybe do a bonus episode.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
maybe we just undermine the whole thing.
Yeah. Just do all these.
I think Maltese Falcon 2 is a fitting end.
Yeah, I think
because
you sound very satisfied.
Well, I'm satisfied because I think it's an interesting comparison to LA Confidential, which is one of the last movies we reviewed.
It's true.
The 99% line. So I think that's interesting.
And it's going to help me write my falconry screenplay I've been working on for about 10 years.
Exactly. As long as the falcons are made of emerald or something.
I was going to say Maltese.
Yeah.
Bunch of Maltese.
We can eat Maltesers while we
Bunch of Maltipoos running around.
Okay. Well, we don't want to divulge all our thoughts on Maltese Falcon now because we got to do an episode about it next week.
I guess we do.
So thank you again to everybody who took the time to record something for us. It was really sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice to know that you guys still care.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we did it this way. I think this is exciting. Up until 3 seconds ago, I didn't know what we were watching.
Yeah.
We've been collecting these reviews or these votes for about a week now, a few days.
Scott's been sweating. I've seen him under a stack of paper multiple times trying to figure this out.
Yeah, I was trying to think if the Electoral College could get us out of this, but it doesn't apply.
It does not. We called them.
They
asked us to stop calling.
Not interested. Well, Max, where can the good people find us?
You can find us at our website, criticalbreakdown.com.
Nice.
You can find me on Twitter at Max Rivera Film, or you can find me on Twitter at Max Rivera Film.
You can find me on Instagram at breakdown_Scott, or you can find me on Letterboxd at Stenin2. If you want to get a little sneak peek, you can already read my thoughts on the Maltese Falcon there.
That's cheating.
I don't think I wrote thoughts there, but I did give it a score.
It's not cheating.
It was a 5 out of 100. No, it was a 5 out of 5 stars. But we'll find out next week what we all give it.
Yeah, what we all give it.
Jason Brown did our music.
Josh Vera did our artwork.
And Walter's the podcast Falcon.
And we're the Maltese Boys.